So our next subtitle is Lincoln's re-election. Under this subtitle, we're going to be talking about a couple of things, the election of 1864, but also Lincoln's plan for the future once the war is actually over and how he wants to end the war. So in the election of 1864, Lincoln, once again running as a Republican, is running against the Democrat George McClellan. Yes, that is the same George McClellan, the one who refused to use his army and frustrated Lincoln. Yes, he's back again, and this time he's running for president as a Democrat. Still hates Lincoln. So Lincoln knows that this election is very important, and he's been anticipating this for a while. In fact, he thinks that he's not going to win this election because of the ongoing war. And we're going to talk about what changes that in just a second. But McClellan has been importantly running on a platform promoting a truce with the South. And ending the war with the South. And Lincoln does not want to end the war until they can be sure that the South is going to submit to all of their terms and comply with the Union's wishes, namely getting rid of slavery. So Lincoln wants to end this war kind of on the North's terms rather than on the South's. So Lincoln runs with Andrew Johnson as his vice president. Now, Johnson was an important member of Lincoln's ticket. He was, in fact, the only Southerner who did not resign his seat in Congress after his state seceded. His state is Tennessee. And he is an ardent Unionist and a Republican, although, as you'll see if you look at Reconstruction, not the greatest guy. A little bit of a white supremacist. But Andrew Johnson was important for kind of reuniting the South with the North and kind of winning over the Southern-leaning factions of the North. So Lincoln does win, but he mainly wins because Sherman takes Atlanta right before the election. Now, we don't really know what would have happened if Sherman had not taken Atlanta, but it makes the North look really good, makes Lincoln look like he's being very effective, and makes it look like they're about to win this war. So the North suddenly bandwagons onto the war again, and they're supporting it and don't want to vote for somebody who wants to end it, McClellan. So Lincoln is reelected, and in his second inaugural address, which is truly fantastic, and I wish that we could read it together, but unfortunately we don't have time. In his second inaugural address, he says that slavery was the unintended cause for the war, and no one expected the abolishment of slavery, but that's kind of where they're headed towards now. And the war must be won, and the nation must be reunited with, and this is a significant quote that we need to remember here, with malice towards none. Meaning that Lincoln kind of wants to smooth over the differences between North and South after this war is over. This leads us to what's called the River Queen meeting, because it took place aboard a ship in a river called the River Queen. So this meeting takes place between Lincoln, his Chief General Grant, and then Grant's kind of second in command, Sherman, and a Confederate figure, Alexander Stephens. Alexander Stephens, you may remember as the Vice President of the Confederacy. He doesn't actually like Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy, very much, and he very desperately wants to end this war. He wants peace and a truce between North and South so they can negotiate the end of the war. But Lincoln responds to this request by saying that he just wants unconditional surrender, because he's afraid that if they end this war on the South's terms, then the South will not give up everything that they need to move on from the issue of slavery. So he demands unconditional surrender. And of course, Alexander Stephens is not in a place to give that, even though he kind of likes Lincoln. So Lincoln lays out his plan after this. He says that the war must be won for slavery. And this is kind of called the River Queen Doctrine here in Abraham Lincoln's plan. He asks Grant and Sherman if any further battles will be necessary, and they say just one. They have to take over Richmond. So he advocates for a hard war, but a soft peace. So they need to finish this war once and for all, but after that, he's going to try to reunite these different factions of the country and smooth things over so they are able to move on and not fight anymore.